benefits for lower income seniors. So that's the fight that we are waging. We're going to introduce that legislation this week.
Tell me what that looks like in this House. I know you're not in the House, but we have seen a House where most of the priorities right now from Kevin McCarthy's crew are investigations, except for the Social Security matter, which will lead to possibly not raising the debt ceiling.
So there is a new fourth check, everybody. The lawmakers have announced that you have a deadline to apply for this. If you don't meet the deadline soon, you're not going to get that stimulus check. What I have to say, folks, about this is that there's a ton of news that I want to share with you. I'm going to say one thing, everybody. Stimulus checks are still on the table. Now, if you have not yet filed your 2021 income tax return, well, there is time to file. Time to receive that rebate, which is currently going to be several $100s at least, because the South Carolina taxpayers are currently set to receive a district and direct tax rebate up to $100 in one day. The State Department of Revenue says they are currently issuing a round of rebates, and now if you would like to apply for this relief, make sure to meet the qualifications for it. To be eligible, I'm talking about you must file your tax return by February 15th in order to receive the check by March. If you don't do it by February 15th, you're not going to get that check by March. Now, if you want to get the check sooner than that, here's a couple things that you can do. First of all, the mayor wants to make sure that everyone is eligible, and for this rebate to apply, he intends everybody to apply for the deadline by February. He said, "I don't want anyone to say they didn't have the chance to get the refund. Do it now and qualify." The city stated that this rebate is a good check, and mostly thanks to the city's administration increasing sales tax of 8.25%. So as of January, though, the finance director has estimated that between 1 million and 2 million of the 2021 homeowners and property taxes has been refunded thanks to the rebate. It's with an additional 600 grand still available. To apply for this rebate, residents must have owned their property tax for the 2021 entire year, and also pay the entire tax bill in 2022. They must then fill out a property tax refund application and mail it along with one proof of a property tax bill. The mayor has warned that this will likely be the one time the deadline is pushed back. And also, Alabama lawmakers are eyeing possible tax rebates as the reason they see a state budget surplus of more than $1 billion. The legislators will face a decision on what to do next, including how much to save, how much to spend, and how much to do with the money. But according to the Legislative Services Agency, the state budget has funds that education as a $3 billion surplus. The state general surplus has a smaller surplus of around $400 million. And now the senator who chairs the Senate Education Budget Committee said that lawmakers are working with the governor on a proposal that he expects that plan to include rebate checks, along with tax cuts and just putting money aside into reserves. Now, this money put aside into reserves should help people out with more stimulus. If it doesn't help them out with stimulus, well, it's bad news. But the good news is this. It's that the Republican lawmaker said he expects a proposal for tax cuts. He said it's important that the state put a lot of money into reserves. The AP reported that at least 15 states have approved a one-time check. There's been disagreement among lawmakers on how to use the rare budget surplus. Several Democrats would like the expansion of other areas, and even the Senate Democrat told reporters that if we could do a tax rebate, we could expand Medicaid and help people out. Help people out by giving them stimulus and give people stimulus money they need. We got attendees but the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SI, and SDI. There's a ton of stimulus information that you guys have to know. We got a lot of news on this, a ton of stimulus to talk about. It's here, it's now, it's time. Because the remarks from Kevin McCarthy are here. He said he's not going to touch Medicare or even Social Security. Now, since he's not going to touch the Social Security and Medicare, well, it means that people will be getting stimulus. Yes, that's true, and that's a fact. Also, I want to say one more thing, folks.
If these investments turn out to be profitable as a direct result of these federal grants, the taxpayers of this country have a right to get a return on that investment. That is not complicated, nor is it a radical idea. These exact conditions were imposed on corporations that receive taxpayer assistance in the Bipartisan CARES Act, which passed the Senate 96-0. In other words, every member of the U.S. Senate has already voted for the conditions that are in my amendment. Further, the CARES Act was not the first time that Congress passed warrants and equity stakes tied to government assistance. During the 2008 financial crisis, Congress required all companies taking TARP funds to issue warrants and equity stakes to the federal government. In addition, this amendment would also require these highly profitable companies not to buy back their own stocks, not to outsource American jobs, not to repeal existing collective bargaining agreements, and to remain neutral in any union organizing effort. Again, this is not a radical idea. All of these conditions were imposed on companies that received funding from the CARES Act and passed.
And with inflation on the rise since last fall, Americans have been significantly affected by the rising cost of goods and services, and more than 8 in 10 Americans now say the economy is either an extremely or very important issue in determining how they will vote. Folks, there's a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits that I want you to know, so be sure to continue watching this video because you definitely don't want to miss out on this. We have a ton of good news to come. Biden and his administration unveiled a brand new plan for how they would take action to help the American people financially. Eligible Americans may be able to claim up to $500 in extra stimulus cash. So President Biden spoke to a crowd of union supporters this week, hoping to put a positive spin on his economic record and made inflation not seen in decades. And Biden sought to reassure the people that tackling the worst inflation in the nation has seen in decades is a top priority for him and the administration. The speech came a day before the Federal Reserve could raise interest rates as much as 0.75 of a percentage point, as it attempts to get inflation under control. The president acknowledged that inflation is sapping the strength of a lot of families as the price of gas and food skyrockets. But even as he sought to emphasize administration, it's fully focused on the problem. The president conceded he is left without many options to fight the price hikes. The president acknowledged inflation is sapping the strength of a lot of families as the price of gas and food skyrockets. But even as he sought to emphasize his administration is fully focused on this, the president conceded he is left without many options to fight the price hikes, particularly in a narrowly divided Senate. Folks, I do want to see President Biden do something for the American people, and I hope he can step up to the plate and give out stimulus checks before it's too late. Biden stated the problem is Republicans in Congress are doing everything they can to stop the plans to bring down costs on ordinary families, and that's why the results are not finished either. And Biden on Tuesday touted his administration's efforts to the nation's recovery from the crisis. He also mentioned some actions are taken, and others he's considering, to fight inflation, but Biden has previously said there is not much more he's able to do that will have a noticeable effect. He's also mentioned some actions taken right now and others he's considering to fight inflation, but Biden has previously said that there is not much more he's able to do that will have a noticeable effect. The White House has been trying for months to demonstrate its commitment to dampening inflation and bringing down soaring prices that are placing stress